Okay, we've reached 2 o'clock, so we can officially start the meeting. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Before we begin, I shall just make everyone aware of the fire instructions. There are no fire alarms scheduled for this afternoon, so if you do hear an alarm, please treat it as serious. In which case, can you follow the fire exit signs out the front door and down the stairs and out towards Knoll Road car park, which is the designated fire area. Just follow the crowd. Don't return into the building until a relevant individual has informed us it's all safe to return. And if anyone's unable to use stairs to evacuate the building, then please let me know and I'll make sure that there are suitable arrangements in place. I will therefore begin with the first item on the agenda, which is the election of a chair. Please can I have a nomination for the position of chair for this meeting?
I nominate Councillor Helen Whitcroft.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Skipper. All those in favour of Councillor Whitcroft assuming the role, please indicate. Thank you very much. I therefore confirm that Councillor Helen Whitcroft is duly elected as chair for this meeting.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's nice to see everybody. Before we begin, obviously I am, as you've just heard, I'm Helen Whitcroft. I'm also the chairman of the Borough's Licensing Committee. Could I ask Councillors Skipper and Gordon to introduce themselves as well, please? Mark.
Councillor Mark Gordon, Borough Councillor for Bagshot and Licensing Committee member, and Declaration of Interest. I'm a DPS in Surrey Heath, if that's any relevance.
I'm Councillor John Skipper. I represent Haverside Ward and I sit on the Licensing Committee.
Thank you. Could I also ask the officers to introduce themselves, perhaps starting with legal?
Rebecca Batten, I'm the advisor to the Licensing Subcommittee today.
I'm James Hall. I'm the Democratic Services Officer at Surrey Heath Borough Council, and I'll be clerking and minuting today's meeting.
Denise Reynolds, Licensing Officer, Surrey Heath Borough Council.
I'm Paula Barnshaw, Senior Licensing Officer. Thank you.
And could I perhaps ask you if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves as well, please?
Frederick Domeloff. I'm a resident over 6 years in the High Street in Camberley, former personal and premises licence holder.
Lovely, thank you.
Hello, my name's Roy Light. I'm the representative for the applicant.
Good afternoon, Chair members. My name is Richard Baker. I'm the agent on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you.
Jinder Kapoor, applicant.
Lovely, thank you. It's nice to meet you all. Right, I'd like to move on to item 2. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. This is the standard item relating to declarations that we would normally have. Would members of the subcommittee please confirm that they have no non-disclosable pecuniary or affective interest in the application before us this afternoon? I can confirm so.
I have no pecuniary interests.
And Mark?
No pecuniary interest, but as I stated, I'm a DPS in Surrey Heath.
Thank you. So the purpose of this item is to determine an application to grant a premises licence to Camberley Post Office at 3 High Street, Camberley, Surrey. Before we start, I'd like to check that everybody has received copies of the papers. Yeah. And then, before we move on to the hearing process itself, I'd like to draw your attention to item 3 on the agenda, where you'll find set out the procedure that will be followed during the hearing. I just want to make sure that everybody understands the order of business that we'll be looking to follow and take any questions on that if there are, please. Yeah, I'm okay. Okay, so moving on then, item 4 is the determination of the application to grant a premises licence at 3 High Street, Camberley. If we're all ready, I think we are, I'll call upon Ms Barnshaw, please, the Council's Licensing Officer, to present a summary of her report, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcroft. Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting has been convened today to decide the application for a premises licence for a convenience store and post office at 3 High Street, Camberley. The application requests the sale of alcohol daily between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. This is for off sales only. The applicant has volunteered conditions to be added to the premises licence, and those can be found on page 21 of the agenda pack. We have received no representations from responsible authorities. They've all been informed, so police, planning, environmental health, and so on. 3 representations have been received, 2 from residents and 1 from a business concerning the licensing objective prevention of public nuisance. The redacted representations can be found in the agenda at pages 23 to 26. I have listed the terminal hours of licensed premises in Camberley Town, just to help the committee with the number of licensed premises in the area. However, more pertinent to this application would be the other licensed premises with off sales only, and those are AV Fruit and Veg, their terminal hour is 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Stop and Shop, their terminal hour is 11 p.m. Premier, their terminal hour is 9 o'clock. H&R News, terminal hour 8 o'clock. B&M Retail, terminal hour 11 o'clock. Everest World Foods, terminal hour 11 o'clock. Savers Health and Beauty, terminal hour 8 o'clock. And Sainsbury's, terminal hour 2300 hours. These are the terminal hours that have been granted in the premises licence, not necessarily the times that those premises close. The committee is asked to either grant the application for a premises licence or grant the licence with appropriate additional conditions, or to refuse the application and provide reasons for that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Barnshaw. The panel will now hear the representations from responsible authorities and any other parties. Please note that your written representations have been circulated to all parties to the hearing and have been read carefully by the panel. Would those addressing the committee clearly state their full name, who they represent when making their representations? There are no time restrictions in force for this committee, nor does it restrict the number of speakers from whom it expects to hear. However, please consider very carefully whether you can actually add anything further to what might have already been said. Interested parties are reminded that the committee will not attach weight to the volume of oral submissions. The committee is only able to consider the variation in relation to the 4 licensing objectives: the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of any public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. I now call upon the clerk to confirm who the speakers are today, please, if you wouldn't mind, Mr Hall.
Thank you, Chair. The only speaker we have today is Mr. Friedrich Domalov, who is an interested public representation.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors at this stage? No, all good. So I now call upon the public representatives to present their case for objecting to the application to vary the premises licence. Thank you.
That is I presume.
Yes.
Well, as I stated in my letters, the objection is to the intended hours from Monday to Sunday, 7 to 11 o'clock. I find that unreasonable due to the other establishment, Camberley News Agents, which are limited to, I think it's 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock and 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock on a Sunday. It also is a number of residential flats within that vicinity. So when you look on the other side, or where Premier Inn and other establishments, as you've cited, close at 11 o'clock, that may be fair, but the number of residential flats, including children, is a concern. So that's why I'm asking for a limited number of hours. We're not against the post office or any retail outlet, but it's just the antisocial behavior that allegedly can happen. It has caused concern previously. Our car has been vandalised twice in the high street. We've had no action by the council or the police previously. So that's been repaired. There's been a lot of breakage of glass. Even 2 days ago, there was breakage of glass outside the barber shop. I'm not saying that has been from any shop concerned. It could be some antisocial behavior. But it's the number of children that I'm worried about that the residents bring out and have to walk along and to maybe be incorporated into some form of behavior. As I understand, it's for off-trade sales, so therefore somebody can just take out. I know the establishment have put up CCTV cameras, which is extremely welcome in that area. So I thank you for that, because that's something that we needed for many, many years to actually look at the problems that we've had on the north end of the high street. So the objection is to the hours. I would like to see something in the region of 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock, and on a Sunday, 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Do either of you have any questions that you would like to put to that speaker? Councillor Gordon?
So in Park Street, round the corner from where you are, there are 3 convenience stores that sell off sale until 11 o'clock. You've got Premier, you've got A&B, I think, Fruit and Veg, and a third, I'm not sure what the name of it was. You're implying or you're suggesting that you may have people hanging around buying alcohol late night and hanging around there causing disruption, but the 3 stores in question don't have that problem, first of all, where 3 is close together, and Park Street is probably more of an area where people will hang around with, especially the younger element of town. That would suggest that it's not likely to happen where you are. And since the problems you mentioned in your original application were from people coming out of the nightclub, Location and True, both as venues now shut down again, my question to you really is, how likely do you think it is to happen, based upon there's no precedent for it in the surrounding town centre, and the 2 venues when people leave are both closed. So I'm curious to work out why you think that would be such an issue where you are, sir.
I have no evidence of what you're saying from the other side where the Premier shops are. I can't disclose any of that information or facts to you. The fact is, it's intended what will happen. We're trying to avoid possibilities of something happening. And therefore, when you look at also the residential side, 11 o'clock at night, especially on a Sunday, is, I think, too much. It's a day of rest. I'm not necessarily religious as such, but I think to actually the sale of alcohol on that day particular is too lengthy.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon, did you want to come back? All right. Councillor Skipper? Any questions?
You're quite happy for the hours for, is it 8 till 10 during the week and 8 till 4 on the Sunday? I'm just trying to work out what the significance is of the extra hour in the week, either side of 8 and 10, and on Sunday the shop's still going to be open and selling alcohol at those times. So what's the concerns, if there are any concerns, that it will happen during that time as well? Or are you just unhappy about the alcohol licensing hours opening on up to 11 on Sunday as well? Is that your concern about the length of...
I could have said 9 o'clock, because, you know, that is basically, even when you would say for children, 9 o'clock is the watershed of TV and such. I think we're being reasonable when it comes down to, as a retail unit, that they have to make a profit, whether it's to sell alcohol or other. But I'm trying to be reasonable, saying I could have said 9 o'clock is a more legitimate time rather than 11 o'clock. Again, it's because children should be in bed. But I just don't want to see any nuisance or antisocial behaviour which is not allegedly responsible afterwards. There could be littering or broken glass outside. I'm looking at the future, not immediate. We've had problems before in Camberley, which has been noted. So that's my reason for this.
No, that's fine.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any questions you'd like to put to gentlemen at this stage?
No, none, thank you very much, Chair.
So now I'd like to ask the applicant to outline their case, please.
Thank you very much. I did submit a hearing note to try and assist with today's proceedings, and you very helpfully reproduced it in the agenda pack at page 29, Annex F, so if we could go to that, please. I understand you've all read it, so I won't labour any parts of it. This is the applicant, Mr. Kapoor. He's got extensive licensing experience, having run off licensed premises since 2003, so that's quite some time, and a DPS for some 20 years, since 2005, and he's run licensed post offices since 2018. So he's very well experienced and knowledgeable about running convenience stores with alcohol and also combining that with a post office. I think the premises were previously a nail bar. I've been again to look today, and there's a nail bar next door, so I don't know if I've got that wrong, but it doesn't really matter what they used to be. Oh, they were a nail bar. So there were 2 nail bars next to each other. Rather than an empty shop, and there are a couple of empty shops in the high street, there's going to be a nice store there for local people to be able to use. WH Smiths didn't want to renew their contract for their post office. I think WH Smiths are selling all their high street stores, aren't they, at the moment, to somebody else. And the applicant took over another post office in Fulham, which wasn't being renewed. And he's run that very successfully since he took that over. It's got the same hours, and the area is a more challenging area than this one, and he hasn't had any problems running that for the same hours, the same sort of store, in an area which is slightly more concerning. The store was warmly received. I had a look on the internet. You can find everything now, can't you, really? I had a look on the internet, and there was something in the newspaper about the Hammersmith and Fulham store that the applicants opened, and a councillor there, Ben Coleman, Deputy Leader of the Council, was quoted as saying, "I know what a blow losing the former post office in the co-op was for local people. It's been great to work with Agenda on bringing this new one just across the road. The extended opening hours are really helpful." So they clearly had no issue or problem there. I know it's a different application and it's not going to make any determination for you, but it's useful to see that Agenda has done what he's hoping to do here somewhere else, and it's worked very successfully. So we'll have a modern, well-stocked post office and local store, 7 days a week, full service to the community. So it's going to have all of the additional things that these stores have for people to use. As Mr. Domeloff has kindly said in his representation, and he repeated it again, thankfully, when he was talking a moment ago, it will be a welcome addition to businesses in this part of the high street. So it is something people want, and it has to be economically viable. And one of the problems with closing the hours earlier is that people will come into the shop and you'll either have to shutter off all the alcohol somehow to stop people getting to it, and then people are going to say, "I don't understand it, you're open, why can't I buy a bottle of wine or some beer or something?" You have to explain you've got 2 different levels of opening hours. So it often causes more trouble than it solves by cutting back on the hours. And as we've already heard, there are 3 around the corner with those hours. They don't experience any difficulties, and they're normal hours, 11 p.m. They're not late hours, they're normal hours. They're not late night unsociable hours. And I can't see any objection from anybody mentioning their children. Mr. Domeloff is concerned about children, but not about his children, it sounds, but other children which may or may not live in the area, and we've got nothing from any of the parents of those people. The responsible authorities are all informed of the application. There's no representations from any of them. And it's reasonable to assume and conclude that if a responsible authority hasn't made a representation, that it doesn't have any objections to the application that's being made. And as Mr. Domloff says in his application, in his representation, the alleged nuisance and vandalism have been reported to the council and the police. So the council and the police are well aware of the issues that Mr. Domloff is putting to you now, because he's already reported those to the police, but the police and environmental health have decided that this store opening is not going to add to those or cause any new issues. And as the Section 182 guidance says, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this, about the weight to be given to the views of responsible authorities. Each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field, and in some cases it's likely that a particular responsible authority will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to a particular licensing objective. For example, the police have a key role in managing the nighttime economy and should have good working relationships with those operating in the local area. The police should usually therefore be the licensing authority's main source of advice on matters related to approach to the crime and disorder licensing objective. That's paragraph 912. And then over the page, significantly, there are no representations from the police, or equally significantly, environmental health, which is the main source of advice for the licensing authority in relation to the public nuisance licensing objective. And I think that's what we're looking at today, is a possibility of public nuisance being caused. We've got 3 representations from other persons, 2 from residents, as we were told, 1 from a local business. As far as I can see, that business opens from 9 till 5:30 Monday to Friday, so I can't see it's going to be affected by late night opening because it won't be there. It won't be open at those hours. Some matters raised are not licensing issues, and they've been addressed in the agenda already. Concerns over parking and need and so on won't be relevant, as you know. Another raises concerns over nuisance and vandalism. This is Mr. Domloff again, coming from a nightclub. So it's not caused by these premises. It's not caused by one of the other off-licensed premises. Mr. Domloff thinks it comes from the nightclub. And as we've already heard, the nightclub closes far later than these premises are going to be open. So it's not going to cause any difficulty in that respect. The local business representation asks whether the post office business will be safe in a licensed retail unit. It doesn't point out why that might not be safe. The answer is yes, in any event, as proved by the applicant's experience in no problems with his post office sales and the premises he's operated for some 7 years. So it hasn't been an issue, it hasn't been a problem. People coming in, being able to do their grocery shopping if they want to, or buy some alcohol if they want to, and also to use the post office. There are fears that operating beyond 8 p.m. may cause vandalism and nuisance. While these concerns are no doubt genuinely held, I'm sure Mr. Domloff genuinely holds these concerns, it's noteworthy. There's no evidence to support this, and I think he accepted that himself a moment ago. And the applicant's other stores have not given rise to issues of vandalism and nuisance. And significantly, none of the RAs have made any representations in that respect. And in the agenda, I think we look at, it's paragraph, I think it's page 4 of the agenda, paragraph Yes, I did. Sorry, page 4 of the agenda, paragraphs 3.3 to 3.6 in your agenda. Consequently, some of the points raised in the representations are considered invalid or irrelevant under the Act. The remaining representations have been considered on the prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives, referring to the hours requested. The High Street is predominantly commercial in nature, but does have residential use at first floor level and above. So there's lots of premises in this area, as you will know yourselves, having been familiar with it, which are commercial premises. It's not a quiet residential area, it's a commercial area. A representation describes that several licensed premises are closed. These licenses remain valid and in force, and that includes the nightclub. And then 3.6, to demonstrate the number of premises which benefit from alcohol licence in the locality, please see Annex E. A list which provides the premises which may sell alcohol, and your senior licensing officer has already taken us through that. And we say there are a number of premises which are open until 11 p.m. And then if we could just go to paragraph 6, if we may, at page 6, paragraph 20.1. It's confusing me because I've got 2 page numbers on the bottom of each page. I've got 4 and 6. 20.1, this is an extract from your licensing policy. Licensing subcommittees are mindful that licensed premises, especially those operating late at night and in the early hours of the morning, can cause a range of nuisances. Well, these aren't late at night and in the early hours of the morning. These are only until 11 p.m. When addressing public nuisance, the applicant should identify any particular issues that are likely to affect adversely the promotion of the licensing objectives to prevent public nuisance, including in the operating schedule how they propose to mitigate and manage those issues. Well, if I could ask us to turn to page 19, please. Mr. Baker, on behalf of the applicant, has looked at that. Page 21, I'm sorry. On page 21, we see a list of conditions there. I'm not sure if Mr. Domoloff has seen all of these conditions, but they should provide some sort of, thank you for that, some sort of reassurance. I won't go through them all because you'll be familiar with these sorts of conditions. They're the ones that generally you have on a license of this type. So we've got comprehensive CCTV system, which Mr. Domoloff has kindly already said is a good thing, and he's pleased that that's going to be there. And they're going to keep 31 days, so if there's any issue, any problems, Mr. Domoloff has a problem, if the police, anybody else has a problem, they can come along and they can say something happened, whatever day, at whatever time, and we've got the cameras there to have a look and to see what it was and to take any steps which may be necessary to deal with that. The area immediately outside the premises will be swept daily, so that will cover any issues where people might drop things as they walk out. I mean, most people go to off licenses not to buy a bottle of wine or a can of beer and then to stand outside drinking it. They generally buy it and take it home with the rest of their shopping. So it shouldn't be an issue. And there'll be no self-service of spirits on the premises, save for measures less than 5.5. And if we go back to page 19 of the agenda, if you may, we've got a plan of the premises there. We can see the alcohol is not extensive. It's along the back wall. We can see the entrance at the bottom on the right, and we can see the post office counter beyond that. And then at the top, we can see the counter for the grocery store and the off-license, and the spirits are behind the counter, and the beer and wine and chillers and open display, and they're right next to the counter. They're under observation from whoever's at the counter, and they're well away from the door to discourage anybody trying to steal some. So a responsibly laid out, reasonable amount of alcohol, but in no way just selling alcohol, selling a full range of groceries and other products and so on. And then back to page 21, if we may, please. There's going to be a record kept detailing all refusals of alcohol sale. Won't go through that, but all the details will be there. The next one, all tills will have a till prompt for age verification. So if anybody who's underage comes in, they'll be immediately asked. And the next one for a proof of age, Challenge 25, which you'll all be familiar with. There'll be notices prominently displayed at all exits requesting patrons to respect the needs of local residents and businesses and leave the area quietly. So that's being done as this Section 181 guidance suggests should be done. And then the premises licence holder should ensure that all staff employed at the premises whose duties include the sale and supply of alcohol shall undertake and complete a relevant programme of internal training prior to them being authorised to sell or supply alcohol. The premises licence guidance manual will be the basis of alcohol sales training. Records of the training programme should be maintained and made available to the authorised officers upon request. So it won't just be the licence holder and the DPS and the personal licence holders who are experienced at this. All the staff, before they're allowed to sell alcohol, will be properly trained. I can see Mr. Baker fishing out these enormous manuals, which I'm pleased to say have been very welcomed by lots of committees, but I don't think we need to go through all of it. But there it is. We've got some of it at page 31 in the agenda, which has been reproduced. Mr. Baker is happy to answer any questions Mr. Domoloff or any of the committee might have about how the training will operate and what it entails. But I'll leave that for the moment. In case there are any questions, we can come back to it. So those are the conditions, comprehensive, responsible retailing conditions. And then lastly, and this is a point that I hadn't thought of before, but Agendas reminded me of this, the Post Office conducts research into applicants and the premises, and it carries out a risk assessment before it awards a new Post Office contract. So he had to be investigated and proved to everybody that he was a fit and proper person. And also they look at the store and the area it's going to be in, what else is going to be sold in the store, how the store is going to be run, and they make sure that all of that's done properly, because it is a responsibility to have a post office and the money and all the other things it entails. So it's got the thumbs up from the post office, and hopefully we'll get the thumbs up from you. Unless I can assist you further, that's the application.
Thank you very much. Could I ask if you could just turn your...
Oh, well,
There we are. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Gordon, do you have any questions?
Not really a question, just more a comment really. I would just like to say I was very, very impressed by the retail and trading handbook you've attached as Annex G. So whoever put it together, great job, very well done. Very impressed by it. So that was it.
And Councillor Skipper?
Yeah, can I ask a couple of questions on page 29? You say the store, your previous store, is it in Fulham? Was in a more challenging area. Can you explain what you mean by that and how did you resolve them?
Well, hi. It was put to me, it was challenging, and but it wasn't to be. Like we've done the whole training. Staff was trained, as well as the cameras were installed, and we haven't found anything challenging. We were told that it could be a challenging, but and yeah, but it's yeah. If I can ask. Sorry, who was it?
well, it's probably my fault. I asked him, what was the other area like? Was it like this? Was it more challenging? And he said it was more challenging than this. But I didn't ask for details of that, so it's my fault, presumably. I'm sorry about that. But what you're saying is that you were told it was a challenging area, and you put into place the things.
Put into place all security measures. Sorry, all the security measures and the whole training and the camera system to make sure that every challenge we come through every challenges if there is any.
And have you had any problems with the premises?
No. Since it's been 2 years, so no problems at all. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any questions that you would like to put?
I'm very happy to hear that I'm allowed to come in and view the CCTV coverage because I'm not an authorised officer or police officer. So as an independent person, I don't think I have the right.
No, you're quite right. You don't have a right, but you could come in and you could say to the staff in the store at 10 p.m. last night, there was chaos going on outside. I think you should check your CCTV and have a look at that. And you could go to the police or you could go to the council and you could say, there was a problem at 10 p.m. last night outside the store. I think you should go in and ask to look at the CCTV.
Okay, well, that's fine. If I can be accepted and then come in and you and I shake hands on that, that's fine.
Of course,
But I don't want to take any further to actually sort of make any extenuous problems to the council. If we can solve this reasonably. The other thing about the training, my wife unfortunately could not be here. She's a premises holder. She's the manager of a local pub. I'm a former premises holder of a brewery, so I understand all the licensing and training issues. My wife actually was the general manager for Harrods, setting up the first H Cafe in Henley. And if you'd like to see the Harrods manual on alcohol training, I'd be happy to share that with you.
Well, I think it's worth saying that if you do have any issues, Jinder would be more than happy to discuss them with you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my next comment, actually. We often find that the answer to anything that is to keep talking, communication, leave that door open, don't, keep that, because that is often, you can imagine the things that we do as a result of this office. There's an awful lot of things that, if only we'd been talking, it would have been really quite different. Now, have you got any other questions you would like to ask? No, you're good. Now, we're moving on then to the summing up part of the hearing. So I'd like to ask, I'm just going to go through as I have them on my piece of paper. Would you like to sum up in any way, or are you rested?
No, I can sum up. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that. So basically, the premises licence application needs to be decided today, and you need to provide reasons for the decision that you make. Then we will then issue the hearing decision notice, probably verbally today. Would that be reasonable, Rebecca? And then in writing within 5 days. Okay, thank you.
And next would be yourself. Is there anything you'd like to sum up with?
In my little note, to provide a valuable service to the community. It's a well-considered application by experienced responsible retailers. The licence benefits from up-to-date conditions to promote the licensing objectives. There are no reps from responsible authorities and no evidence suggests that hours for the sale of alcohol will undermine any of the licensing objectives, and you're respectfully asked to grant the licence, please.
And is there anything that you would like to sum up? You're good?
No, thank you.
No? Okay.
Thank you.
Any further points or comments? No? Okay, lovely. The committee are now going to leave the room to deliberate, but I would ask that you all remain in the room, as we may need to call you back just for any points of clarification. The committee will leave the room with the clerk and the legal advisor in order for the decision to be recorded for clarification on legal issues. Does anybody have any objections? Right, thank you very much for your patience. The decision. I'm just going to, we've sat down, talked about the different things that we've considered and thought about and heard, and popped it in to make sure that we sort of get the all the points that we wanted to say. So we've put it into a document, if you like, and I'm just going to read it through. Okay, so it sounds a bit, but after careful consideration of all the information presented to the panel, both written and orally, from the applicant's representative, the licensing officer, and the interested parties, the panel have come to the decision that the application for a new licence in respect of Camberley Post Office, 3 High Street, Camberley, GU 15 3HD, shall be granted. The panel noted the information, concerns and issues raised by Mr Domilov, as well as another resident and business owner who made written representations, namely about the hours of proposed trading, and the effect that this would have on neighbourhood nuisance, antisocial behaviour, particularly in view of the number of children who live locally, as well as vehicle parking issues, and whether it is moral and necessary on a Sunday. The panel took note of the applicant's previous experience in running a premises of this type and his proven track record of responsibly running an off-licence premises. He's shown that he will take steps to train staff and to be a responsible premises licence holder. The panel also noted that there have been no representations made by responsible authorities in respect of this application. On balance, the panel decided that granting the application would not have an adverse impact on the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, and in particular to the licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from harm, and found that there were no grounds to refuse on these points. In summary, the panel granted a new licence with the following voluntary conditions, which were proposed by the applicant in addition to the mandatory conditions listed at Annex C of the application. I would ask that you note that a decision letter will be sent to you in the next 3 working days, and that the voluntary conditions will be listed therein. This letter will take precedence over the oral decision I have just given to you. The panel's decision is binding upon you and the licensing authority. If you are dissatisfied with the decision of the licensing panel in this case, you may appeal against this decision to Guildford Magistrates Court. And that is where we come to an end. So thank you very much. Best of luck with it. Thank you very much for your time and obviously having given it thoughts. I will just reiterate what I said earlier on. If there are any problems, please do. I can see from what you've already said that you obviously operate a doors always open policy. And if there are any problems at all, then I'm sure that you'll do your absolute utmost to sort them. So thank you. Now, as the chairman of licensing and someone with a bit of bee in my bonnet about this, vapes. We have had a few incidents of late, and it's not actually something that falls to us, as you're aware, as licensing, of stores across the borough, one in the town centre and quite a few outside, selling vapes to underage children. I'm not suggesting you would, but all I'm saying is please, 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 because obviously it's not a licensing in the alcohol sense. And the other thing, do you do energy drinks? Do you put a age limit on them as well? Because I think that's voluntary, isn't it? Isn't energy drink limits still voluntary at the moment? Yeah, it's just the vapes and the energy drinks, I think, are just 2 little areas that need tightening up so that, so yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. So, lovely. Well, as I say, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, as always, for your time in putting it together. Thank you. And thank you both for your time this afternoon as well. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.